For attendance, take this picture. Project is due November 28th. The following week, you'll respond to at least 5 classmates. But it's due on the 28th. You lose 5 points for late. But that week, get them out. Any questions?
We also have the part 1 of our class.
Yes. The in-class part of the exam will be Thursday. The review week 12. So there's a review. The take-home portion of the exam is also up there. It's 8 problems. It was up, I think, Thursday of last week. Then your attendance for today. There will not be attendance on Thursday. Turning in your exam will be your attendance, so that you don't have to worry about it. The in-class exam, which is Thursday, no computers, no technology except for calculators. No watches. No phones. Yes. I did. It's on Blackboard. But we're going to go hopefully over one of every problem today. For the in-class portion. Take home, you can look up all the videos, and if you have questions, you can ask me. Okay, so for the in-class portion, it's 11 problems. Should only take 50 minutes, but your class is an hour and 15. That's plenty of time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up each homework assignment and we'll go over whichever problems are similar. So from homework chapter 5, number 3. Now this one you filled in, so I'll fill in. Can you see if I write here? Well, something like this, and it'll ask you to find the grade point average. This one does. Find the grade point average, and then it says add 0.2 to the value from part A. So we'll do that part also. But this part will be given. I know it's not. Now you have to remember the point value depending on what grade. And I went with YSUs, so it's a good one to remember. A is worth 3 point. A is worth 4 points. And then F is worth. This A, each of these credits are worth 4 points. 4 credits are worth 3. If you get an A, I always put the point or the value next to it. That way I can quickly multiply across. So, got all these and make all 3. Questions on it. Quality points, you just multiply across. 4 times 3. 12, 4 times 8, and 3 times 1. Questions on that part. Grade point average. Sum of your quality points. Divided by the sum of the credits. Little e sum for that. So you add up your quality points. 10, 20, 32, 35. Over 7, 7, 14. Questions on that part? Now this one says to add 2 tenths to this to see what we would need to get in order to bring our grade point average up to 10 of a point. I don't know if I did 2 tenths or if I said go up to this grade point. Something like that. This one, want to increase it by 10, we want it. We want to find what grade point average we have or need in order to get a 2.7. So the other thing you need to know is how many more credits you're taking. And on here it said 20 credits. So if we take 20 more credits, what grade point average do we need to bring it up? Right now we have 14 credits. 20 credits. We're looking for the grade point average so that we can get a 2 point. That top, that's your quality points. 14 times the 2.5 that you have right now. Or you could have put the 35, which is your quality points right now. And then 20 credits times what grade point average we need. Get a 2.7. Now when you're finding your grade point average, you also need to divide by the credits. 14 plus 6. Then you use this equation to solve for G. Now, if I go too fast, slow me down, but I just want to make sure. I'm also recording it, so hopefully this room seems to come out best. But other classrooms don't show. You're dividing by 34. So multiply both sides by it. Fraction. Still solving for G, so we'll get rid of the 35. I subtract. G equals 56.8, and then divide by the 20. .84 to bring your grade point average up to a 2. Questions about? Chapter 6. All right, chapter 6, number 3, and sort of number 7. Is this the data for number 3 qualitative or quantitative? You said quantitative or qualitative?
One.
It's qualitative because it's a quality. So when you ask the question, in this case, what caused the accident, they're not giving you a number, it's a quality. So if I said, what caused the accident, they're going to say drunk driving or cell phone or other. So that's qualitative. You want to be careful of that. Because then when you're answering the mode, it knows most often, you're not going to say 43, cell phones and distractions. So you want to make sure you use the answer or when you ask the question, what they would give. Not the numerical value. Mode is the only one you can ask. Because everything else you need to be adding them, subtracting them. You can't do that with words. Any questions on that part? So it is qualitative. And the mode would be cell phones and distractions. How many were caused by drunk driving? The number, not the percent. No drunk driving, 12%. Well, we need to know how many were in the survey so we can find 12% of that number. Remember, of means to multiply. So 12% of 200 means 12% times 200. But you also have to remember 12% needs to be written as a decimal. So if it's not numerical answers, it's qualitative. If it is numerical, then it's quantitative. That's pretty much all I'd ask on it. But any questions on it? The other one, it uses the information you gathered from chapter 7, but it will be a lot, I don't want to say simpler, but this takes a lot of work and you can't do it in 15 class. So I made some examples so that what they'd look like. Everyone take a picture of this. One is a bar graph. And it's already given. Okay, what's wrong with that? And these are. Percent of the grades are above. Seventy. The 25th percent. I won't ask all of these, but these would be questions I would ask. What percent of the grades are above 70? Anyone? Remember, a box plot breaks everything in quarters. This is 25%. 25. So the 70 is here. 25 and 25. 50% of the grades are above it. Percentiles tell you the percent below. So the 25th percentile means 25% of the data was below that grade. What grade has 25% of the data below it? Here, 25 below, 75 above. So I could ask you, it would only be able to be 25, 50, 75, because box plots go in quarters. So 50th percentile would be 70. The 75th percentile would be 85. Any questions on percentile? So it's the percent below. Median, number in the middle. 70 is right in the middle, 50% above it, 50% below it. The median is question so far. A 5-number summary. Every vertical line up there, there's 5 of them. 5-number summary. The smallest value, lower quartile, upper quartile. So if I ask for the lowest grade on the test, 35. So your 5-number summary tells you your smallest value, which was 35. Your lower quartile was 60. Median, we said already, was 70. Upper quartile, 85. And the largest value in this case was 100. So I could ask any one of those. But the smallest grade then would be a 35. The largest would be 100. Any questions on that? So we had to draw one in this, but on this one, it will already be drawn. And I think the take home, you have to draw one. Any questions on that? The other problem I took from this is the normal curve, but that one you do have to draw. But you'll be given the mean and the standard. Turtles move 2.5 miles per hour. And the standard deviation of 0.5. Called a normal or a bell-shaped curve. Both words, and I'll have the drawing of a curve there. Really do. And so for the normal curve, there's a line in the middle. And then there's 3 lines equal distance on each side. So if the curve is drawn, that's all that will be on it. You have to put the percents under the curve and the numbers at the bottom. Percents under the curve are always the same. Memorize. 1, 13. So you want to memorize them. Be careful, there's 3 different versions online. Stats class here uses a different one, and the stats class is the third. So memorize those percents. Always the same. Correct. Once you do that, the mean goes in the middle, and standard deviation is what you're counting by. So in this case, we're counting by halves. Our average was 2.5. Right? I would add 0.5. 0.5. And the other way, I'd subtract it to 1.5. Number line, and you're counting by your standard. Question on that? No. Just like blocks and whiskers, although this is all quarters, you can add those percents the same way. What percent move more than 3 miles per hour? Where the 3 is, then you have the percents ahead of it. Or if they wanted less than, below it. There. 15.8% of turtles move faster than 3 miles per hour. Usually I try and get accurate. %. To find a value where 84% of the data is below it. Well, it's definitely not this one because it's only 0.1%. Here would be 2.2. Here would be 0.8, because we add the 3. Then add the 34.1, and we're getting closer. Add this one, we get the 84. If you add over, those will add up to 84. So the 84th percentile is 3. 4% of the turtles move slower than 3. This will add up to an exact value, so like 2.2. And percentile will be 1. So if you're not adding to a percent properly, then you probably have your percents wrong. And if a 3 isn't here, then you probably did this wrong. So whatever values are here, they should be add up or be on the test. Any questions on that? Chapter 7, number 1 and number 2. First one. How many kilowatt hours is Dwayne's bill? I think the easiest thing is to think about the mileage on your car because it's continuous. So what's this? Excuse me. So in September, you had 67,157 kilowatt hours on your meter. In October, when they went, it increased to 68,215. Subtracting them tells you how much you used. Subtract these two. Get 1,050. $1,058. Write an equation where C is the cost when K kilowatt hours are used. That's up to you. Want to use C or want to use Y for them? It doesn't matter to me. Let's make sure if you use Y and X that you Y is cost, X watt hours, so that you know later. I know you understand. Find M and B. B is a starting amount, fixed cost. It's not multiplied by kilowatt hours. Find the part that's not multiplied by kilowatt hours. Now, on some bills, when you look at them, there's more than one thing. With electric, usually there's only one. $10.52. So it doesn't matter how many kilowatt hours I use, I always have that $10.50. I am. No questions on D. So on a bill, and it is marked like that. you look up your bills, water bill, electric and gas, it shows multiplying by whatever the units are. So these four are all multiplied by kilowatt hours. They depend on how many kilowatt hours you use. They're all the slope. Add it together. So the ones that are multiplied by kilowatt hours would be 12 plus 14 plus 0.05. 5. That would be your equation. The slope. The slope is the part with the variable, x, slope. Because this is in dollars, but there is no dollars, I rewrote it as cents, simply because it's easier to explain. Now slope is change in y over change in x. My y is cost. My x is kilowatt hours. Start with x. Always increase it by 1. So additional watt hour, because the slope is positive. The cost, that's the y value, 554. So your x increases by 1, and then the cost, because it's positive slope, increases by 54. Questions on that? The y-intercept is when x is 0. Kilowatt hours. So if we use no kilowatt hours, the cost is $10.53. Questions on that? Oh. Oh. The parts that were multiplied by kilowatt hours, I added them up. So the 0.12, 14, 05, and 23, if you add those, you'll get the 54. There's one more question, but any questions so far? Last one is, how much is Dwayne's bill? Well, he used 1,058 kilowatt hours. And this equation gives us cost. Plug it into the equation. X is kilowatt hours, so we plug it in for the X. $581 questions on that? I think it'll take a little bit of time. I find that a lot of people waste time on this one because they didn't memorize the numbers and they're trying to memorize them, because this probably should take care of it. I would say the normal person one, that a lot of people miss. So memorize those numbers. For this one, which number 2 on chapter 7. Says, Dirk Bentley makes 180,000 in album sales this year. How much will he pay in taxes? Well, the first thing you need to do is find out what tax row he's using. Look at the first column. This is your income. We want to find out which one 180,000 is in. Notice 180,000 is between 157,501 and 200,000. So we're in this tax bracket, 32% tax bracket. Or the fifth row. And it tells you what to do. $32,089.50. So $32,089.50 plus 32% of the amount over 157,500. So I have to find out how much we went over to end up in that bracket. Because you only paid 32% on the part that went over. All the other ones they figured out for you. So if we subtract these, we went over by $22,500, or he did. If you calculate this, it will tell you how much he has to pay in taxes on his $180,000. Any questions on that? So from chapter 7's homework, number 1 and number 2. Questions on that? Chapter 8. That's the scatterplot ones. And the scatterplot problem is on the take home. So the in-class portion does not have chapter 8 on it. I did have a problem that had the scatterplot explain the line, but explaining the line is the same as explaining the slope and the y-intercept over there, so I didn't see a need to put it twice.
like has like X number of chapters and the rest of the chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, so pretty much anything we didn't go over is probably on the table. I think, yeah, some parts is like you have to graph the box plot, I think. For the most part, if it's not on here, then it's on there. So chapter 8 is just a scatter plot, and that's on your take home. Chapter 9, 2 and 3. I need to. Oh, we're skipping. So 3 problems actually come from this. One where you explain the difference between linear and exponential. So if we look at number 2 and number 3, one of them's linear and one of them's exponential. So there's one question on the exam that tells you what's the difference between them. How do you know when something's linear and when something will be exponential? Linear goes up by the same amount every time, or exponential goes up by 1%. So it grows by 1%. Through a linear, it's a straight line. It's growing the same amount each time. Exponential curves, it grows slow at first and then it comes high. So if we read number 2, deposits $7,000 into account and makes $50 interest per year. Is it linear or exponential if you're making $50 a year? Not percent, it's the same amount every time, linear. Write the equation for the amount after 2 years. Now you can just use X and Y. Where B is your starting amount, and M is the part that's increasing. It's the rate. We're starting with 7,000, and we're increasing by $50 per year. $50, and we're starting with 7,000. Now, if you want to use T for time, that's fine. Questions on the equation? How much is in the account after 25 years? X is years because it's $50 per year, so you put 25. Getting 82. After 25 years, there'd be $8,250. Questions on that? Second one, notice that we're increasing by a percent. Well, from our explanation, if it's growing by a percent, it's exponential. Now, the formula we don't use as much as we did linear, so you don't remember. 5 equals plus or minus, depending on if it's an e. So it starts with the initial amount, and then we use our 1 plus trick, or 1 minus if it were a decrease. This one is increasing though, so it would be plus. So our initial amount was 7,000. When it's an increase of plus, our rate was, I think, 12%. As a decimal. Or X for your expert. So this is definitely a formula. You want to make sure you have memorized. Well, hopefully you already have straight line on that. Questions or equations? How much is there after 25 years? As you can see, it grows very quickly. 1,000. Any questions on that? Number 4 and 5 are on the take home. Any questions? Okay, that'll work. From chapter 10, 1, 3, and 4. Number 1. Yes. Oh, yeah. Jimmy John's went shopping on Black Friday and charged $2,500 on his new Visa credit card. which had a zero balance before the charge. Number The Visa has a monthly periodic rate of 1.8%. What is the annual rate? The annual percentage rate, or APR, you take the rate, and since it's monthly, you multiply by 12. So in December, his credit card comes, there was nothing else on it, so the balance is 2,500. Your interest is zero because in your first month, if you pay it off, you do not have a fee. Any questions on that part? Okay. He says when the bill comes in December, he decides to make monthly payments of $400 for December, January, and February. Then he will see what he owes and maybe try to pay it off in March. So he's making $400 payments. So $400 comes off. Add these two, of course, it's a zero, and subtract. So you have $2,100. That $2,100 that was left on there, you have to pay interest on. And the interest rate was 1.8 as a decimal, 0.18, which means $37.80. Any questions on that? When this statement comes in January, he owes the 2,100 plus the 37.80. So he makes a $400 payment. 2,100 plus the 37.80 minus 400 should get 1,737. And that's what you pay the interest on. Gives us 3,120. So in February, he would owe these two together. But he decides to only pay 400. Gives him $1,369.08, which he also has to pay interest on. Any questions on that? What would he need to pay in March to pay the total off? In March, you just add these two together. Add them, $1,393.72. Any questions on that? There was one more question on it. how much did he pay in interest? But any questions on what he owes in March? You have to add these two, so. Since this was not paid off in February, you had to pay interest on it, so the two together are your total balance. To find the interest, just add up the interest. Add it up, you get $93.72. Any questions on that one? Number 2 is on the take home. Number 3, I have 3 and 4 put together as one problem. You have to do the house payment and find effective rate. All right, that's weird. Huh. Okay, the formula for payment is on the tax bill. R over 12 divided by 1 plus 1 minus, switch them. R over 12 to the negative 12. The formula, and it is on the test. It's good. This formula is not good. You're buying a home for $250,000. At 4.5%. Says for a 30-year mortgage, find the payment. Now, doing it all at once, parentheses here. And if you're not multiplying this first, you'll have to have parentheses. E is the starting amount or the beginning of the loan, 250,000. R is the rate as a decimal. Don't forget your calculator for the test. $141. Any questions on that? Is everyone getting that? Find the total pay. Total paid is your payment. Pay the monthly, so it's 12, and then the number of years. Sorry, I was looking at number 2. Didn't get that value. Okay. Why did you say something? I was just taking the answer off of here for part A, but actually it's number 2. Number 3, part A, you should be getting 1266. Sorry about that. So we are payments times 12 times years. Is everybody getting 1266? Not say so. I mean, I know that answer is correct, but to find out what you're doing wrong before the exam. $15. Double. Questions on it? Everyone plugging in the value. How much in interest? Subtract what the house loan was. $1,006 for $206,000. $15. Almost enough to buy another house. Any questions on it? Positive. This one, I also put effective rate with it. The effective rate formulas will also be given. The one formula is this one. Other one, either the R. So we'll say, use these effective rate formulas to find, and then like this one says compounded monthly, quarterly, continuously. This one is used when it's a compounded amount. This one is compounded continuously. For A is a 5.3% compounded month. R is your rate as a decimal, and C is the number of times compounded in a year. So C would be 12, because monthly would be 12 times a year. 1 plus 0.053. And we're rounding, this one said to round everything to the 100th. And when you're rounding, make sure you make it a percent first by multiplying by 100. So the 100th would be here, 5.43. Any questions on that? B was quarterly. Quarterly is 4 times in a year. So instead of the 12, it's a 4. So this would be 0.05406272. Rounding here, it would be 5.41. I still have 3 minutes. 5 compounded a month. How many? 5.3 to the 0.053 minus 1. So when you do X, you should put parent in a parentheses or just say before it goes right in the X. Close the parentheses before you subtract 1, or if you are up here, move down before you subtract. 0.544.296. Thing to the 100. 4%. So the equations will be given, but it won't say what is what for effective rate. Like on here. I just like to write it up. Are there any questions on the? Was one of every problem.